I'm Phil Cooke, and I'm standing here with Dan Wathen, who is a producer here in Los Angeles, a very experienced producer. And I want to talk to Dan today about planning your next video. A lot of people watching this are video producers or want to be video producers. But the truth is, Dan, I've seen so many videos get all excited. People write scripts and they put the crew together and they get their equipment, they go on location, and because of something they didn't plan on, it fell apart. They never got to make the video. So I want to talk a little bit about scheduling. I mean, what are some of the things you think about when you get an assignment to go, whether I know you do a lot of client-driven videos that are 2, 4, or 6 minutes long. What's some of the first things you think about when you get that call and you start planning the video shoot?
First thing I'm looking at is, where is it at? Are we going out of town? Are we staying in town? And who needs to be a part of the team and the crew to achieve what it is? Some stuff we do only requires a camera operator.
Yep, by himself.
And maybe myself.
Okay.
So that's a small shoot. Other ones will require more crew, and that involves more planning. So that's the number one thing I'm going to do, is decide who needs to be a part of this.
And where it's going to be.
Where it's going to be.
Now, what about permits? Now, and many people watching this may live in places where getting permission to shoot is not a big deal, but chances are I always want to check to see if we need it. I mean, what's your attitude toward permission and permits?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the city that you're in, where in the city you're shooting.
Okay.
For instance, we occasionally shoot in another large city. It's not Los Angeles. They don't mind you shooting as long as you don't have lights on a tripod stand that's on a sidewalk. You can be on a tripod, but for some reason they don't like lights on stands. So you're fine that way.
That's good.
So check Google, find the local maybe film commission in that state or city.
Definition. Film commission is usually most major cities have a film commission that actually encourages filmmakers to come and shoot in their state, their country, their city. They're free. And they're happy to supply you with location ideas, rules, what permits you need. They're a great asset. So if there's a film commission, you can go online and search for it. And if there is one, that'll help.
Yeah, and Phil, I have found those commissions are super helpful. They actually want you to go there to shoot. In fact, they can even recommend local crew to help you, or maybe cast or talent. So take advantage of them. They're there for you. They don't make any money off of you, so it's free, free tools.
And Dan had a good point about the size of the crew. You know, there's many cities that we film in that if you have 3 people or less, you can pretty much shoot anywhere and they won't bother you. But the minute you start bringing out light, you start having a makeup person, you start having, a lot of gear, then people start noticing, and that's when the city gets involved, the police start asking questions, and you kind of need to have a permit to shoot in situations like that. But the truth is, 2, 3 people or less, and particularly today when, a DSLR like this looks like a tourist camera. Even if you have one of these, or if you're shooting with a pocket camera or a mobile device, a lot of you will be shooting with mobile devices. Any of these cameras can help you get by as a tourist. And so you want to attract a lot of attention. I mean, these days you can go in to the Vatican and, high security places with a tourist camera, and people won't stop you. And the fact that you're shooting video or stills, they're not going to ask questions. But always ask, check up front. Wouldn't you say that's a good rule?
Absolutely. Another important thing, if you know someone in the town you're going to be shooting in, talk to them, have them help you out. They may know of some areas you can film that are free or very low key.
And if you're shooting at a place outside of your city, and particularly if I go to another country, I want a local person with me on the crew, because sometimes there are language issues, there are cultural issues, there are permit rules issues, and particularly in some places. I know I was just in the Middle East recently filming on a project, and you really do start to create, draw a crowd. And the minute people start finding out what you're doing, some of them get hostile, some of them get upset. So I want to always have a local person there who can either deal with that or bring in the police if necessary. It's just a safety rule that I think you have to know about, that's so incredibly important. Another thing is hospitals. Dan likes to know, okay, if a light falls on somebody, or you do have an accident, and they happen from time to time, that matters, right?
In fact, I know if you film in Los Angeles and a lot of other big cities, the film commission can actually show up, or the permit people, and look at your call sheet. And they want to see that you've done your due diligence of locating hospitals that are close by in case one of your crew members gets burnt by a light, something life-threatening. you've done your part and you immediately have those safety precautions there.
So I think the key is we can't give you hard and fast rules for planning a video, because in every country of the world, the rules are a little bit different. But I think some of the key things to think about are, have your schedule locked in. You know, don't just allow people to show up when they show up. You spend a lot of time and effort and sometimes money setting up that shoot day. So you need to make sure the crew understands, I've got to show up on time. The actors, if you have actors, they show up on time. Whatever you're doing, make sure they show up on time. Otherwise, you're just wasting money, wasting time, and wasting effort. So scheduling matters. And the other things that are important is to check permissions, to check permits, make sure you're not such a big crew that people notice. Anything else you could think of before we quit?
If you can do a location scout beforehand, that's fantastic. If you can't, then call ahead, have someone take pictures, ask questions about electrical. Another key thing, talk to your director of photography or your camera operator and find out if there's equipment pieces you need to rent ahead of time. When I do a shoot, I'll contact the camera operator and shooter that's going with me and find out what they would prefer, what type of lenses do they need, do we need to rent some extra lights. But I'll communicate with them and not just assume what they need. That way, when we get to the shoot, they have the tools that they need and they're not surprised.
Last thing for me is backup. You know, even if you're shooting on a mobile device, what happens when the battery runs out? You know, do you have another battery standing by? Do you have a plug standing by that over lunch you can recharge your phone? Whatever, think of backup, because again, you do not want to get to a place and have done all this work, all this planning, pull all these people together, spend some money in many cases, and then something like that go wrong and you didn't have a backup. Preparing your video, write this down. Preparing for the video shoot is just as important as the shoot itself, because if you haven't prepared well, you're going to have a disaster.
Right. Do a checklist to yourself. It sounds corny and cheesy, but if you are the coordinator or producer, you'll love it. You know, go through your head every scenario that could happen, everything you need, check it off, make sure you're ready to go. Pilots
go through a checklist before they leave the ground, and it's a great rule for safety, and it certainly is a great rule for filmmakers. So that's it for producing. Just remember, planning is incredibly, incredibly important.